ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति।
லாஸ்ட் நீங்க ஸ்ருதி ஸ்மிருதி புராண இதிகாச ஆலயங்கிறதுல உபனிஷத் மட்டும் தான் ஸ்ருதி கீதா பிரம்மசூத்திரம் கிடையாதுன்னு லாஸ்ட் கிளாஸ் நீங்க பேசுறேன். பட் எல்ஸ்வேர் இன் சம் அதர் கிளாஸ் தட் உபனிஷத் கீதா பிரம்மசூத்திரம்லாம் ஒரே பிளேன்ல தான் சமமா சாதிக்கப்படுது. இட்ஸ் லைக் ஸ்ருதி பேஸ்ட்ங்கிற மாதிரி நீங்க சொன்னீங்க. ஸோ ஐ தாட் தட்ஸ் a contradiction, but I don't understand it.
The clarification is, I said in the last session that the philosophy is the Upanishads. I gave the distinction of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihasa, Alaya. Shruti is that which is heard. It is called Apaurusheya. Smriti is that which is composed, written. Are you able to follow? Brahma Sutra is written, composed by Vedavyasa. Therefore, it gets the status of the Smriti, though we give it a value of the Upanishad. Bhagavad Gita, we know who the author is. So in that way, anything that is created by a human being written is called a Smriti. Shruti means that which is heard. Philosophy has this religion. The topic is religion. Religion has two components, philosophy and rituals. Now, philosophy is what? Where does philosophy, what is philosophy? Philosophy is that which talks about the truths of life, the principles of life. That which talks about the truths, the principles of life is called philosophy. Just as science talks about the natural laws of life, philosophy talks about the inner laws of life. Distinct and different from that is, distinct and different from the eternal truths is a book that comes and explains what is said in the Shruti. What is Brahma Sutra? Vyasa says, it is I am compiling it from the Upanishads, he says. I am compiling it from the Upanishads, he says. It means we give it the status of a Smriti. We will not give it the status of Shruti technically. Out of devotion, we put all books under the same category. That's a different thing altogether. It is devotion. Out of devotion, we put all books together in the same category. Bhagavad Gita says, what is the Palashruti of Bhagavad Gita? You know, there is a thing called Palashruti, no, in the first place. At the end of each and every chapter, there is a Palashruti. What is the Palashruti of Bhagavad Gita? Om Tat Sat. It is Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre. Here, the Bhagavad Gita is given the status of the Upanishad. It's devotion. We have to accept, we have to understand it. We have to understand the context separately. In the Bhagavad Gita, we call it as, in the Bhagavad Gita, we say Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre, Bhagavad Gita Tsu Upanishatsu. Krishna says, this is what I learned from my master in the Bhagavad Gita. Are you able to follow? Therefore, there is no contradiction. The question is something you said sometime back in some other class, and last week you said something else. Both are contradictory. For which the answer is, don't worry. It's not from class to class we contradict. In the class itself, in the same class itself, we keep contradicting so much that if you really follow what is being said, you will not come for the next class. Because so much of contradiction. Okay, now, are you able to follow? Huh? Now, coming back to the topic, religion has two components, philosophy and rituals. By rituals, we mean all that comes to explain, symbolize the philosophy is called ritual. You understand the word ritual in a very broad sense here. All that comes to explain the philosophy, all that comes to symbolize the philosophy comes under the category of ritual. Vedanta equals philosophy plus rituals. People have this tremendous misunderstanding. They always think Vedanta is against all this. Vedanta is opposite of all this. Vedanta says both the things. Just as if in physics class you study Rutherford's model, also Bohr's model. You study Newton and you study Einstein. What one person says, the other person comes and takes it to the next level. What one person says, the other person comes and takes it to the next level, exposes the limitations, exposes the fallacy, and they take it to the next level. This is how knowledge grows. So what is Vedanta? Vedanta is a combination of two, philosophy plus rituals. But the tremendous misunderstanding, including this classroom, everywhere is people misunderstand religion, ritual and all is different. Vedanta is different. Why? Because Vedanta criticizes, ridicules everything, that's all. Because it is ridiculing, it is criticizing. It is not ridiculing, it is not criticizing. It says at one level you have to understand it, at another level you need to transcend that also. At one level you understand Rutherford, at another level you have to drop Rutherford and comes to Niels Bohr. This is how science evolves. Exactly the same principle. In fact, I would say science follows the principle of Vedanta because science is a baby compared to the philosophy, and this is a methodology they have been followed. Therefore, what is it that we want to understand? What is it that I would request everybody to understand is philosophy and rituals are two essential components of religion, stage 1, stage 2. They are not antagonistic to each other. They are not inferior to each other. It is stage 1 and stage 2. If you understand that, then you know where to place everything rightly. Otherwise, people here, even in this classroom, people tell me, sir, in the only philosophy that the rituals, I have to go somewhere else. Very dry for bhakti, I have to go somewhere else. Vedanta, religions is two facets, philosophy and as I explained last week, ritual means encompassing everything. A reminder about God is ritual. Contemplating on God is philosophy. When you need reminders about God, you need rituals. Where you are contemplating about God, you don't need rituals. Are you able to follow what I'm saying? Most of the time, we are in need of reminders of God. Therefore, this becomes very essential ingredient of religion. What in this classroom we say, don't take that to be ultimate and stay put. Reminders of God is not God. Idol is not the ideal. Are you able to connect now? Idol is not the ideal. Reminders of God is not God. Example, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Vedas has 3 gods for that. Puranas talks about Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Vedas talks about us Aditya, Agni, Soma. Three things. That's all. What are the 3 things? Creation, maintenance, destruction. Creation, maintenance, destruction. Now, it doesn't matter whether you call it Soma, Agni, or Aditya. You call it as Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. What has to be understood? Life revolves around these 3 natural principles. What are the 3 natural principles around which life revolves? Creation, maintenance, destruction. They call it as God, gods. Philosophy is detachment from the suffix and focusing on the prefix. That is philosophy. Right through, we use this. I followed with some suffix. So in the statement, I am Vijay. In the statement, I am Vijay. Vijay is the suffix. There is I, the prefix. What is philosophy? What is contemplation? Your attention has shifted from the suffix to the prefix. All other things is a preparation to come to the state. Rituals, etc. When we say ritual means rituals, the temples, the stories, all that goes into religion is a preparation to come to this point. What is the preparation? Detach from the suffix and focus on the prefix. You go to Ramana Maharishi, straight away he will say focus on the prefix. Don't worry about the suffix. That's why he keep on asking, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Shift the focus from the suffix to the prefix. When the suffix is so agitated, when the suffix is so disturbed, when it is going through stress, strain, depression, suicidal, suffering, sorrow, what it can focus on the prefix? What focus it can do on the prefix? But then it has to come to that focus, contemplation. How to prepare a person? The great sages found this method. What is that method? Rituals. Rituals is a preparation. Rituals means preparation. Preparation for what? Preparing yourself for contemplation. Preparing yourself to understand the philosophy. And philosophy is soft. Subtle. When you say soft means it's too subtle. It is the rituals that keeps the philosophy secure. That's why whenever you pass through a temple, whenever you hear of a ritual, you are thankful to that. For what? Because of that, we are able to sit and study the philosophy. If all that is gone, what will go away along with it? What will go along with it? Philosophy also will go. You can't just keep the philosophy alone and remove the rituals. That's why Vedanta talks about both. The same Vedas that talks about the highest philosophy is the same Vedas that talks about the reminders also, the rituals also. It's the same Veda. It's the same knowledge that talks about both. It means what? It is stage one, stage two. One complements the other. Where these masters come in is when these are not understood as reminders, when these are not understood properly, they come and say, change your understanding. And when they say change your understanding, you think they are attacking the religion, they are attacking the ritual, they are attacking all. Are you able to follow? Therefore, very beautifully in this topic, it is one of the very important topics, is where how we understand both are supplement and complement. How both are supplement and complement what? The philosophy and the rituals. And definitely philosophy is subtler than the rituals. Why? Because ritual is a reminder. When you come to the level of philosophy, you don't need a reminder. Are you able to see the difference? You need a reminder to be grateful. Another is you are grateful. Is there not a difference between the two? And definitely reminders are needed in the initial stages. So in that sense, he says, several religions have emerged with God as the centerpiece. Philosophy says, I, the prefix without suffix is God. The I, the prefix devoid of suffix is God. Tattvamasi. Philosophy says that. But then it doesn't make any, any difference to the personality. It doesn't bring any motivation or inspiration to, in fact, you feel like laughing at it. You feel like saying, oh, என்னமோ சொல்றாங்க அவ்வளவுதானே தவிர it doesn't make any meaning at all. It doesn't give that intended. They will follow. So what they did, the philosophy, they started exhibiting in a grand manner, which is grossly perceptible. The philosophy exhibited in a gross manner. That's what I gave examples of. That's why I gave some example last week. What are the examples I gave last week? I forgot. Something I gave, no, last week? What did I give? I think I gave யாருக்குமே ஞாபகம் இல்லையா? Then we are all Anshu, correct. Coconut. What a one area இருக்கே. Coconut. Temple. Coconut. Temple. Bharat Mata. Bharat Mata விட்டுருங்க, because she is very painful. Yeah. Let us not focus let us not focus on Bharat Mata. She is very painful. Coconut, like the temple, and then we took the temple and explained how the philosophy is brought about in a grand manner that people can remember. Thus came the advent of religions. But the centerpiece is, what is the centerpiece? God. What is the centerpiece? God. Sanctum sanctorum. Give. There is the outer prakaram and then the inner prakaram. We keep, we saw all that. And then we go into the sanctum sanctorum. And why the sanctum sanctorum is named like that also we saw. Which is what the philosophy is all about. Now, you look at that grand thing, you are in wonderment. When you are in wonderment, the question comes, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Then the philosophy is explained. Are you able to follow? This is how philosophy and ritual are supplementing each other. When I say supplementing each other means level 1, level 2, grade 1, grade 2. Where the problem comes is when the individual thinks that by doing these rituals and practices and everything, they can appease God and that God will protect. To this misunderstanding, in fact, this is called misunderstanding, and this misunderstanding they eliminate first. When a person does all these, they don't understand it as a reminder for God. They believe that it is going to sort out some issues. What issues? Whatever be the issues. In fact, all problems boils down to only two things: material, emotional. Financial problem, illanna. Yeah. When you don't have finances, material wealth becomes a problem. When you have all that, emotional problem will start. So all problems boils down to only these two. There is no third problem. And people believe God, religion, and all that is a solution to that. Saves you from this. God will grant you material wealth. Not only God will grant you material wealth, after granting material wealth, he will be a watchman also, making sure nobody comes and takes away. Or you please God, you appease God, and that God will protect you. First of all, why God has to give problem, make you suffer, and then protect? First of all, he can make sure straight away there is no problem, no, in the first place. Why create a problem first and then come and then tell people that if you worship me, I will protect you? So he is the creator of the problem, and then he says, if you worship me only, I will save you, protect you. Yeah. This doesn't look like God. This looks like, yeah, Hiranyakashipu. It looks like, yeah, it looks like Hiranya. It doesn't look like God. And then what is God? That's what we are probing. That's what we are probing. Then what is God? We understand that these are reminders, and the idol is not the ideal. Now I'll give you a simple example of how it is grossified further and further and further. The law says Satyameva Jayate Nanritam. Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad says the law of life is truth alone triumphs. Satyam eva jayate. Nanritam. Not untruth. It's very clear. You read that and you look at life. What is correct? What seems to be correct? Your experiences seems to be correct. And what Mundaka Upanishad is saying seems to be doesn't seem to be a law. That's Shruti. Then elaboration comes on what is Satyam. Elaboration comes. Somebody elaborates it. For the human intellect is not sharp enough to understand this. Therefore, an elaboration comes. That elaboration is in the form of a smriti. Elaborating what is dharma, what is satyam. Satyam means these things, truth, and truth is of it goes into a detailed elaboration. But that also requires some intellect. That also requires some intellect to understand. It's இன்னும் complicated ஆ sir. Because situations in life varies, accordingly these also varies, then the confusion comes. Then what they do, Purana comes. Shruti, Smriti, Purana. What is the Purana? The story of Harishchandra. They give a story. They depict a person going through this. The ups and downs. He goes through that. And in and through all that, he sticks to it. And then he comes out triumphantly. Satyameva Jayate. What is coming out triumphantly? Attaining moksha. You see, all of them will gain moksha at the end. Have you ever observed it? Have you ever observed all of them attain moksha at the end? Because that is the end. Not what we think as is. Not what we think God is going to save us and keep us happy, and then God will be there, I will be here. Not that. The moksha. So, the story of Harishchandra and all that. Purana. Thousands and thousands of years, people have been listening to the story of Harishchandra, and out of the story of Harishchandra, one Mahatma Gandhi comes out. The purpose is served. Are you able to follow now? Thousands and thousands of years of listening, if it can produce one Mahatma Gandhi, the purpose of Harishchandra is served. And then they talk about actually a human being in blood and flesh right in front of your eyes living that. That is itihasa. That is itihasa. A person trying to live that in front of your eyes, going through the ups and downs, but he all that is comes under itihasa. But idillallam or interest varannume sir. Idillallam or interest varannume. How do you bring the interest in all this? How do you even bring a person to itihasa? Alaya, temple. There is, at least if you go on a exhibition tour, you will get the reminder, no? Because you will go on a tour, no? Museum tour you will go, isn't it? You'll go on a museum tour, you will go on an exhibition tour. So what they did, they built a temple. And when they built a temple, upon what principle the temple is built? On what principle the temple is built? The principle of Shruti. The principle of Shruti. When they devised a ritual, breaking a coconut, they thought about it so deeply, verified so many things that can be used, and then they finally zeroed in on the coconut. Why? Because it represents what the Shruti is trying to, say. This is how all these rituals are only an explanation of what the Shruti is. Even the rituals, like take a ritual like ancestral prayer. They are dead and gone. and they live life according to their own karma. You doing has got nothing to do with that. And yet, what does that ritual mean? And what is that? What does the ritual mean? Your gratitude. Whether they are alive or when they are alive, you showed your gratitude in a different way. After they die, you show your gratitude in a different way. But nevertheless, it's an expression of your gratitude. It is an expression of your gratitude. And you can have your own way of expressing gratitude. They said this is the way. But then what is in that, what they kept as essential and what they kept as non-essential? The way in which that generation expressed their gratitude may be different from the way in which this generation expressed their gratitude. That way in which you express is different, but gratitude as such is essential. Are you able to follow? Generations, when the generation changes, the way in which they perform the rituals also changes. And Vedanta fully accommodates the change. That's why it talks about the rituals. At the same time, it is flexible about it also. "150 years back, crossing the ocean is the 150 years back. It's not 1500 years back. 150 years back, crossing the ocean is considered very, very sinful. Today, at least ஒரு 3 நாள் வாட்டியாவது கிராஸ் பண்ணிருக்கணும், isn't it? At least minimum 3-4 times at least you should have crossed. It's not the, it is not the ritual there. Why I am giving all these examples is to make you understand how the philosophy is kept, the truths of life is the same, the way in which it is understood and the way in which it is practiced is different. Understanding remains the same. In this classroom, what are we trying to do? In this classroom, what are we trying to do? We are making an effort to understand. After the understanding, you have the freedom to do, not to do. You do what you want to do. We don't say do it. Vedanta doesn't say, neither this book says do it or don't do it. It says understand first. So what are we trying to do here? We are making an effort to understand. When we understand both. What is both? The essential and the non-essential. We understand both. The essential and the non-essential. Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihasa, Alaya. All factors put together is called religion, Vedanta. Of this, philosophy is, since philosophy is one category, rest are all symbolic representation of the philosophy. Understand it like that. Rest are all not different from philosophy. Rest are all not opposite of philosophy. Rest are all the symbolic representation of the philosophy according to the grades of intellect. According to the grades of intellect. Now, in this classroom, we are trying to develop, make the intellect so subtle that we want to understand the Shruti. That's what we are attempting in this classroom. So all these is according to the grades of intellect. One thing that is not allowed is to get stuck at any point. When people are stuck at the level of the rituals, the Shruti says, fools. The Shruti says, fools, because you are Stuck. Okay, you come to the spiritual path and you are stuck in the spiritual path. Andam tamaha, blinding darkness. If you are stuck there, you are criticized and condemned. If you are stuck in the path, you are criticized and condemned. If you don't come into philosophy, again, you are criticized. See, when I say condemn means they don't curse or anything. What I mean is because ஃப்ரீயாவே பேச முடியறது இல்ல இல்லையா? ஒரு ஒரு வார்த்தைக்கும் அவ்வளோ இதுவா இருக்கும்போது அப்படியே அவ்வளோ டைட்டா இருக்கு. சார் யூ ஒன்லி செட் கண்டெம் சார் தட் டே. ஐ ஃபர்கெட் வாட் ஐ செட். இல்லையா? So please understand the philosophy what I am talking very liberally. வெங்கட் சொல்லிடுங்க எல்லார்கிட்டயும். அப்படியே வார்த்தையெல்லாம் கெட்டியா புடிச்சுட்டாலும் I don't know how to answer after that. இல்லையா? So when you are not at all coming to the spiritual path, you will be told, come. When you come and when you are stuck, again it will say, don't get stuck. So for those who are stuck, it ridicules it. When it is ridiculing, what you should understand? They are not ridiculing the doing, they are ridiculing the doer who is stuck. And then people conveniently take as though the ritual is ridiculed. The ritual is not ridiculed. The doer, without an understanding, doing it is ridiculed. The doer who is stuck is ridiculed. The doer who is doing it for the wrong purposes is cautioned, ridiculed, educated. The same Vedas, the same Vedanta that gives a philosophy is the same Vedanta that has given out all this also. Why I'm spending some time on this topic is because rarely we get to study this. Because we always believe both are different. Also, the way in which some people present it, people go back thinking, is Vedanta against God, sir? People ask, huh? Vedanta says, correct. Vedanta is definitely against God. And then it will not put a full stop, it will put a comma. And then it will turn back and ask, since you used the word God, what is God? You came and said Vedanta is against God. Yes. Since you use the word God, what is God? Whatever you say is God, Vedanta will say Kenopanishad. Not what you worship here. Not what you worship here. Not what you worship here. The centerpiece, the purpose, the mission, the essence of life is God. The purpose, the mission, the essence of life is God. That we have seen already. You can't escape this question, God. You cannot escape God because it's your nature. You can't escape it. Buddhi will go on ask all that we have seen already. I'm not elaborating that again. Do you remember? We have seen that already. And what these masters did, they gave the philosophy, and for those who are not matured enough to understand the philosophy, they gave a set of preparatory practices. Those set of preparatory practices is called rituals. Is it okay till now? This is the advent of religion. So from now on, at least what you should understand, if anybody asks what is Vedanta, what you should say? Vedanta, religion, means philosophy and rituals. If philosophy is not understood, if philosophy you cannot understand, it is elaborated in a way in which you can understand, in the form of a story, in the form of a music, in the form of a deity, the form of a deity, the form of a story, the form of a music, all put together, all evolved out of what? One theme called God. All this evolved out of what? How to convey this thing called God. Music evolved out of it. Arts evolved out of it. The deities evolved out of it. And then followed the practices. Those who have rightly evolved, gone through the process of evolution, they know how to place everything, how to position everything rightly. Not simply discarding, ridiculing. What are the Hindi numbers? Hindi numbers. என்னோட ஹிந்தி இங்கிலீஷோட மோசமா இருக்கும். If my English is bad, my Hindi is worse. They say about Nanak, Guru Nanak. He came to number 13 and got stuck at 13.
Tera.
Tera. Tera means, they say, Tera means, what does it mean? 13, huh? There's another meaning also, no, for that? Yours. So, he came up to that and he got stuck there. What a level of evolution that is. Yeah, you also keep saying Tera, Tera, Tera. Yeah. Tera lang கிடையாது. Mera தான். It is Tera, Mera. And the Tera is also Mera. என்னத்த சொல்றது? To help a person evolve and understand. To come to this. This is the advent of religions. All the rituals, gods, Yagnavalkya, the king made an announcement. Upanishad. The king made an announcement. The announcement is 1,000 cows studded with gold and diamonds. 1,000 cows, 1,000 best cows. I don't know, A1, A2, எந்த cows best இதில்ல என்னெல்லாமோ சொல்றாங்க இப்போ இல்லையா? The 1,000 best cows and studded with gold and diamonds and everything. The king said, whoever answers my question can take this 1,000 cows. Yagnavalkya came. Yagnavalkya came and looked at this disciple and said, take the 1,000 cows to our ashram. He didn't answer the king. He didn't answer. He told his student, take the 1,000 cows to our ashram. Everybody is stunned because they didn't know what to. One person stood up and asked, Yagnavalkya, what are you doing? Yagnavalkya said, see, I need cows for my ashram. They told me king is having 1,000 cows. So I am taking it. Without answering the question, you cannot take it. What is the question? A great lady. Till that time, they didn't know that she's such a great lady. Yeah? A great lady. Gargi stood up. Enlightened soul. She is Gargi. She stood up and she asked Yagnavalkya, answer the questions, then I will be convinced that you are worthy of taking this. Yagnavalkya says, okay, what is your question? How many gods are there? 33,000 crore gods. We say that, no? 30 ಮುಕ್ಕೋಡಿ ದೇವರುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ. Next question. Again the next question. How many gods? 33 gods. Next question. How many gods? 3 gods. Next question. How many gods? Silence. Gargi said, Yagyavalkya, you are fit to take the cows. She certified, huh? This is the philosophy and the ritual all combined in one story. How do you understand this? Somebody has to, this is Upanishad. Somebody has to elaborate it. At one level, there are gods in plural. At another level, there is God in singular. At the subtlest level, anything about God? Anything about God? Keep quiet. Anything about God? Keep quiet. Anything about God? Keep quiet. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Taittiriya Upanishad. We saw that last week also. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Where words and concepts fail to reach. And everybody tries to capture it in some concept or the other. Huh? Everybody tries to capture it in some concept or the other. Thinking that somehow it can be explained. Thinking that somehow it can be explained. Thinking that somehow it can be explained. And the latest trend is trying to explain everything through science. Previously, they tried through arts. Then they tried through music. Then they tried through this. Now they are trying through. For everything, you have to give a scientific explanation. Science is clarity line, no? What they want and what they are trying to do. Science itself, you know that science itself lacks clarity. Science itself lacks clarity on what they want. Science itself lacks clarity on why they are doing what they are doing. And you have to borrow those principles to explain this. Huh? Naranji, why do we have to do that? For somehow it can be explained. It says, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Meaning, where words and everything fails to reach. That's God. That's the philosophy. And then the path. So, religion means, what do you understand now? Vedanta means it is essentially combined of two. What are the two? Philosophy and rituals. And what he means by ritual here is use the word ritual in a very comprehensive way. Use the word ritual in a very comprehensive way. Comprehensive way means don't use it in a very narrow sense of ritual in the sense of an actual act of doing something. It is a beautiful word that is comprising everything that explains the philosophy. Symbolizes the philosophy. This is the topic, advent of religion. And Vedanta is not opposite of rituals. The philosophy is not against the ritual. The philosophy is not opposing the ritual. Philosophy says idol represents the ideal. Idol represents the ideal. Bharat Mata, the idol, represents the ideal of What does she represent? Nation. National flag, the idol represents national consciousness. If the national flag is burnt in a fire accident, we will not mourn. If the national flag is battered by storms, we will not mourn. When the tailor is stitching the national flag, his legs will be on the his legs will be on the cloth, on the national flag. We will not go and amputate his we will not go and amputate his legs for that, saying that you have insulted the national flag. Why? Because we understand it is the idol that represents the ideal. And if I can't understand the ideal directly, I need a reminder. And those reminders are also an essential integral part of religion. You use it to transcend it. You use it to transcend it rather than getting stuck about it, rather than developing a superstitious notions around it. So, yeah, this is the topic, advent of religion. Now we move on to the next topic. Tribute to Vedanta.
No, we have completed only up to this mystery of the unknown. Reading
Advent
we
of
have come.
religion முடியலையா?
Reading பண்ணல.
Okay.
Read பண்ணல.
போட்டுருங்க, அதையும் போட்டுருங்க. Yes, we will read the topic
Advent
of
of religions. Since the transcendental reality God could not be reached, conceived, defined, people fabricated terrestrial symbols, idols, to represent the transcendent ideal God. Thus arose statues and pictures, crosses and crescents to indicate God. These are only pointers leading to the ideal God. Few realize that an idol is not the ideal. Just as the national flag is used to represent the nation, the national flag is not the nation. If the national flag is tattered by the weather, the nation need not mourn for it. Strangely, people have stuck to the variable symbols and idols and forgone the absolute ideal, which has created disagreement and disharmony amongst the human race. Thus, to translate the transcendental into terrestrial language, several religions have emerged with God as the centerpiece. And religions are based on two main facets: one, philosophy; two, rituals. Philosophy is the kernel of religion. It is designed for the intellectuals to study, reflect, and grasp the knowledge of the ultimate reality, while the rituals cater to the devotional who are unable to grasp the subtle philosophic truths. Since the vast majority of human beings fall under the category of the devotional, rituals have played an important role in maintaining the trend of religion, though few understand the deeper import. Vedanta is the highest and most profound philosophy laid down in the Upanishads. The Upanishads form the end portion of the Vedas presented by the ancient sages of India thousands of years before the advent of any religion in the world. Vedanta does not merely give names to the unknown transcendental reality. Its approach to God is methodic. Its subtle philosophy systematically bridges the gulf between human beings' ignorance and the true knowledge of God, helps attain the ultimate state of self-realization, God realization.
Yes, continue.
Tributes to Vedanta. Eminent theologians regard Vedanta of the Upanishads as a world scripture, a scripture appealing to pursuers of truth in all races at all times without distinction. Some of their observations below bear testimony to it. Author Schopenhauer, 1788 to 1860, a great German philosopher. His philosophy is unmistakably transfixed with the doctrines expounded in the Upanishads. On Vedanta, he says, in the whole world, there is no study so beneficial and so elevating as that of the Upanishads. It has been the solace of my life. It will be the solace of my death. Max Muller, 1823 to 1900, a renowned German Orientalist, comments upon this assertion of Schopenhauer. If the words of such an independent philosopher require any endorsement, with my lifelong study of all the religions in the world and all the systems of philosophy in Europe, I humbly endorse this experience of Schopenhauer. If philosophy or religion is meant to be preparation for the afterlife, a happy life, and happy death, I know of no better preparation for it than Vedanta. Paul Jacob Dawson, 1845 to 1919, a Sanskrit scholar of the University of Kiel, Germany. I find the philosophy of Parmenides, Plato, and Kant in a nutshell in Vedanta, and advise the Indians Vedanta in its unfalsified form is the strongest support of pure morality, is the greatest consolation on the sufferings of life and death. Indians, keep to it. Carl Wilhelm Friedrich Schlegel, 1772 to 1829, a German poet philosopher. The highest stages of European philosophy appear as dwarfish pygmies before the grand, majestic titan of Upanishadic thought. It cannot be denied that the early Indian possessed a knowledge of the true God. All their writings are replete with sentiments and expressions, noble, clear, and severely grand, as deeply concerned and reverentially expressed as in any human language in which men have spoken of their God. And the divine origin of man is continually circulated to stimulate his efforts to return, to animate him in the struggle, and incite him to consider a reunion and recorporation with divinity as the one primary object of every action and exertion. John Gow, 1757 to 1825, an English philosopher. The Upanishads are the loftiest utterances of Indian intelligence. Sir William Jones, 1746 to 1794, an English scholar and Supreme Court judge. The Greeks derived their knowledge from Vedanta, the clear, comprehensive system of philosophy of the Hindus of India. Victor Cousin, 1792 to 1867, historian and philosopher of France, there can be no denying that the ancient Hindus possessed the knowledge of the true God. Their philosophy, their thought is so sublime, so elevating, so accurate and true that any comparison with the writings of the Europeans appears like a Promethean fire stolen from heaven, as in the presence of the full glow of the noonday sun. George Robert Starve Mead, 1863 to 1933, an English author and theosophist, eulogizes the Upanishads are a world scripture written thousands of years ago by the wise Indian seers, simple and graceful in inspiring Sanskrit poetry, a matchless record of Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, the supreme God. Further insights from Indian sages. Sri Aurobindo, 1872 to 1950, Indian seer and poet. The Upanishads are a kind of poetry, word of vision and rhythm of the spirit that has not been written before or after. Alone of extant scriptures gives one and all without veil of stinting with plenitude and a noble catholicity the truth of the supreme God Brahman. Its aid to humanity is therefore indispensable. Swami Vivekananda, 1863 to 1902, renowned spiritual leader. While every other religion depended on the life of its founder, Vedanta was based upon eternal principles. It was on this that it based its claim of being the universal religion. All ideals are true, and the different religious systems were but special paths for the attainment of these various ideals, which, when intensified, were certain to draw out the divinity in man. Swami Ramatirtha, 1873 to 1906, the greatest apostle of truth, pronounces, Vedanta brings you a religion which is found in the streets, which is written upon the leaves, which is murmured in the brooks, which is whispered in the winds, which is throbbing in your veins and arteries. A religion which concerns your business and bosom. A religion which you have not to practice by going to a particular church, mosque, or temple only. A religion which you have to practice and live in your everyday life, about your hearth, in your dining room, everywhere. These are some of the glorious tributes paid by savants and sages to the Upanishads, Vedanta. The Upanishads remain the highest authority in all matters pertaining to philosophy and religion, besides being the earliest extant literary monuments of India.
Yeah. Now, these are some of the observations. The philosophy is not dependent on these great men's observations. It still remains supreme. But these are given so that it is understood that it is something that has been taught and accepted by everyone. In that sense, these quotes are having a meaning. That's all. Beyond a point, don't take these quotes. We are not going to discuss each one of these quotes independently. I'm not going to discuss these quotes independently. These are all some observations, all put together, saying only one thing. What? How Upanishads remain the highest authority in all matters pertaining to philosophy and religion. All that is trying to convey here is Upanishads are the highest authority when it concerns philosophy and religion. To establish this, so many people are, a few are quoted. Authority means, what does the word authority means? Authority means a law. In Sanskrit, it's called Shastra. In English, it's called authority. In Sanskrit, it's called Shastra. So, Vedanta, the Upanishads remain the highest authority in all matters pertaining to philosophy and religion. Why they are given that status? Why they are given that status that they are the highest authority? They are given the highest status because it is not just a faith, it is not just a belief, it is the direct experience. They speak about it from their direct experiences. Not only they speak about it from the direct experiences, they are able to guide the others also into that. In that sense, it is an authority. So, they are the experiencer and the guide. They know and they are guide. In that sense, you have to understand it as an authority. Authority means requires lot of understanding. Authority means probing and understanding is required a lot. Then only you can understand the authority. Authority means it becomes an authority only when you probe a lot. When you probe a lot, when you spend a lot of time on it, then you will be able to understand how they are an authority. In these tributes, what do they talk about? All these tributes, how all religions, it can be any religion anywhere, it doesn't make a difference. Will find the origin, will find its base in the Upanishad. Till now it is because Upanishads is not any particular sect or a religion. Upanishad is a philosophy, and that philosophy is universal. There are various religious sects that has come about, which all has a specific context, a founder, a specific person. Who is the founder of science? Who is the founder of science? The first man who found out rubbing the two stones you get fire. What a great scientist he was. I don't know what Nobel Prize we can give him. Huh? Who's the founder of science? Instead of you running, sit on an animal that is running. What a discovery it is. How many Nobel Prize can be given to, how many Nobel Prizes you can give to that man? Are you able to follow what I'm saying? You can run. Another is sit on the animal that is running. So, all these are founders of sciences right up till today. Right until today. So, you cannot you cannot categorize and say a particular person as the founder of science. Similarly, there is no one particular person for Vedanta, for the Upanishad, as the founder. It's not a collection of quotes. It is not a collection of quotes, it is. It is exactly like the science. Why we have to use the science is because we have studied that in Radhanal. In fact, it is exactly the reverse. Science has borrowed the system from the philosophy. The tragedy now is clear. Science has borrowed the system from the philosophy. The tragedy today is we have to use this system to prove philosophy is also something similar. Proved, verified, established. Proven, it's verifiable, it is understandable. In that sense, Upanishads remain the highest authority in all matters pertaining to philosophy and religion. So, highest authority pertaining to all matters means connected to the previous topic, rituals and philosophy. Are you able to connect now? Upanishads is the highest in all matters. Upanishads are the highest authority in all matters pertaining to philosophy and religion, which means the previous topic where we studied philosophy and rituals. So all that is pertaining to religion, Upanishads are an authority. Authority doesn't mean unquestionable acceptance, just as science is an authority, but it is accepted after questioning, verifying. Though science is authority, it is not accepted without questioning. Similarly, Vedanta is also, the Upanishads is also accepted as an authority by verifying and questioning and verifying. This is how we probe into God. This is how we probe into God. We understand the relevance of rituals, we understand the relevance of philosophy, and we understand all combined is in these books called the Upanishads. And then there are various books that is trying to explain the Upanishads. Brahma Sutra is not an independent book. Brahma Sutra is the book that is trying to explain the Upanishad. Bhagavad Gita is not an independent book. Bhagavad Gita is the book that is trying to explain the Upanishads. Atma Bodha is not an independent book. It is the book that is trying to explain the Upanishads. So, write down, if you see, all explain the Upanishads. Why? Because they are the highest authority. By authority, we mean questioning, verifying, experience. Experience becomes acceptance. When you have experienced it, you will accept it. Questioning, verifying, experiencing. That experiencing is acceptance. Are you able to follow? So, this is how the entire knowledge. With this, we conclude the topic, the tributes to Vedanta. Next week, we continue with the topic, evidence of unknown. The actual analysis starts. The actual probe, the actual analysis, the actual probe starts. when we are probing, we are going to keep aside, we are not going to probe into the rituals and the meanings of all that. We are trying to probe only the central theme. And wherever necessary, we borrow from. Wherever necessary, we borrow from the we borrow from the rituals, we borrow from the Puranas, we borrow from everything wherever necessary. So the topic is, we'll continue with evidence of unknown. Any Venkat, irka? Ah,
Sir, you were saying that the rituals vary from generation to generation, but the principle remains the same.
yes.
And in that connection, you were saying about crossing the seas was
Yes.
once considered a sin. So what was the essence of that?
The essence of that is, before you are fortified in one, you go everywhere, you will only gather more and more information, intelligence, and gathering more and more information will lead to confusion. So they said, before you have the freedom to venture into everything. Before you venture into anything, get grounded in the concepts. The essence is get grounded in the concepts. If you don't get grounded in the concepts and you move around, what will happen? It will be exactly like Google. Googling will only give, whether it is giving knowledge or not, I don't know. Definitely it can cause confusion. Definitely it causes chaos and confusion. Why? Because it needs such a penetrative understanding to distinguish. In that sense, the rituals keep the way in which the rituals are, it will change. The way in which demonstration of ethics and morals are, it will change. But what will not change? Certain principles do not change. What Upanishad says, they talk about the principles. Rest and all talks about it according to that generation. The rituals and practices and all will be spoken according to that generation. And when the generation changes, what will automatically change? That also will change. But what will not change? The principle will not change. Now, the mistake that we were trying to explain is, people hold on to the rituals so mechanically that the philosophy is also lost, the meaning of the ritual is also lost, except a fanatic attachment to a set of practices. Those fanatic set of practices we call as rituals here. Is it okay, ma?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Over, huh?
Over.
Okay, yes. With this, we conclude for today. We continue with the evidence of unknown.